Welcome everybody to the Digital Nomad Sessions. My name is Mitch Asa and I have a really special guest today. I have Retha Charette with me. Retha, thanks for joining me.
Hey, thanks for having me. Hi, everybody.
Absolutely, and really excited about today's topic. And I'm actually gonna dive into that topic in just a moment. But let me introduce Retha here for a moment so that you can see all of the amazing things that she's doing in the world. She has a lot going on right now, and she's been kind enough to actually get up really early in the morning to speak with me today because we are on the opposite side of the world. So I do appreciate that. But Retha is a travel writer behind the women's adventure travel blog Roaming Nanny that strives to help women find adventures from the everyday to the epic. When she's not writing, she is leading trips for women's travel companies, WHOA Travel and Damesley, in locations around the world from Japan to Cuba and everywhere in between. She also works with the Girl Scouts, leading backpacking trips, and works as a travel nanny, fulfilling her love for sharing different cultures with young people. Now, this fits in perfectly with everything that we're going to be talking about today, which is the importance of community as a digital nomad and why you should join a travel group. So first of all, you've got a lot going on. Like, how do you fit it all in?
That's a really good question, and I don't know the answer. I just have a lot of different passions in my life, and I just kind of swap everything out to make it all work in the end.
Yeah,
It's always
really
been
cool.
how I've lived life.
Yeah, it's funny when we just follow our passion, like things just seem to work out how like we seem to make time for them, right? And time just sort of opens up for when we need the next thing.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, it's really cool. Amazing. I love that. So maybe let's like dive into a bit of a high level conversation around community. First of all, I think being as a digital nomad, it can sometimes, or I mean, a question that comes up a lot is like, do you get lonely? So I think that's probably part of the reason why community is important. We can dive into that. But from your perspective, like why is building community so important as a digital nomad? When did you realize that in your life and how has it affected you since?
Well, I actually have to start with the when that became important in my life part, because that's for me the first part of my story. I've been a Girl Scout since I was 5, so that community, that especially that female-based community, has been a part of how I've become who I am. So that's always been a big part. And after in college, I mean, especially in the U.S. Community is so big, you're constantly surrounded by people, and I feel like my generation specifically, when you leave college, that community kind of drops off because you're in an apartment and it's not as close knit as it once was. So I felt after leaving school that like community was lacking in my life. And so when I started traveling, and not full time as a digital nomad, but just in general, I found myself being part of lots of different travel communities online. And I feel like it's enriched travel for me personally. And I feel that a lot of people that I know are the same way. So finding those travel community opportunities is great, because if you're traveling solo, it's awesome to just be like, hey, oh my gosh, I didn't know you were here. Let's meet up. A good friend of mine named Kelly didn't know she was going to be in London the same time as I was last year, and we connected a lot on the internet. And we got to meet in person for the first time last March, and we didn't know the other person was going to be there, and it was just a great opportunity to sit down. I think we sat and we talked for like 3 hours and just enjoy each other's company, where we were going next, tips and tricks, like what she was doing in London, what I was doing in London, and it was just a really great moment. So I think those moments right there are what makes the community aspect so important for digital nomads. And it's also taking it off the face-to-face aspect of it, of, you know, community as far as networking too. I mean, I feel like I've gotten so many great opportunities in the last year. Like, you said following your passion, like doors open up for you. And for me, one of my passions is community. So meeting all of these other people within the travel space, others have been like, oh, hey, Retha, you'd be perfect for this. And I'm the same way. I'm like, hey, saw this opportunity, fits right in with what you're doing as a digital nomad. You should check this out. So it's a personal and professional community that I've personally built. And I think that the more digital nomads that recognize that community is so important, the better the entire community is going to do.
Absolutely. I love that. So many important points in there. I guess, to continue on with what you're just mentioning there, like the people that you meet when it comes to the professional side of things, especially when you're in business for yourself or being a digital nomad, like you don't know where those relationships could end up.
Yeah.
I know for me, previously in a previous business, we connected with somebody online just like this over a Zoom call. Happened to live, just up the road from where we were in Sydney. Drove up there for the day. Ended up spending time with this guy, and a year later down the track, we actually put together this really big project that he invested a lot of money into together, and we did some amazing things and made a massive impact on the world. So it's really amazing what can happen when you are open to meeting new people. And the second part of it, which sort of ties in with this, is you're talking about you knew that person for quite a long time on social media first. I think as we continue to grow up and evolve and move away from school, meeting people on social media is sometimes the only way we can find people who are at the same level as we are, because
Yeah.
especially if we're on this type of path, because not many people do. So yeah, so many amazing tips in there. I love all of that. I guess leading in from that is like, where can we find these people? Like where is the best way for people at home who want these types of things? Where should they be looking to get involved with communities?
I actually have two different places that I think everybody should kind of look into. I think Facebook and social media in general is a really great space because, especially with Facebook, with lots of Facebook groups. I mean, I'm in a lot of like female digital nomad groups and a group called Female Travel Bloggers that I absolutely love, that I've been able to connect with lots of women professionally with, and then through travel personally with as well, which has been great. And then another place that I've met a lot of people is for me in the travel space, conferences. I go to a lot of conferences that are very community focused. Last year, I went to the Women in Travel Summit for the first time, which was in Portland, Maine, and I'm going this year again. And it's again, a lot of the things I do are very female focused because that's the type of environment and that's the type of people that I want to really surround myself with. Because I think women supporting women is one of the things that I'm really passionate about. It says it on my Instagram, it says it on my blog. I love that idea that there's plenty of room for all of us to succeed. And in that conference specifically, and a couple other ones that I've been to, it's been really amazing to meet all these women in person that I've met online, and we're all trading tips and tricks, and then the relationship goes even further after the conference is over, which is great.
Yeah, amazing. Would you consider yourself more introverted or more extroverted?
Not introverted at all.
Okay.
No,
Cool.
I am very much an extrovert. And unapologetically too. I'm probably that extrovert that is a little too extroverted, and I tend to be an oversharer, and I'm a little awkward, but it's working for me, so I'm gonna keep going with it.
Amazing. I love that. The reason why I asked is because when it comes to actual conferences, I know that a lot of people, more introverted people, get a little bit nervous around like meeting people in those types of environments. Do you have any tips for people like that?
I have a lot of friends that are introverted. It's a good balance in our friendship. And I would say, make yourself a couple of goals before you go. So, I'm gonna talk to in depth to people. And whatever your comfort zone is. If you're really, really new, set the bar a little bit lower for yourself so you feel like you're achieving something. Try and sit down at a table at a meal or at like in a conference room with people that you don't know, because I have friends that I've gone that have just stuck with the people that they knew, and they didn't meet anybody they didn't know after the conference. And the conferences are all about networking. So actually, a story from last year's conference, I was there, my friend Kate was there, and we she's a bit of an extrovert too, and we're bouncing back and forth between things, and we have created this like travel women's like little support network. There's like 5 of us all together, with 3 people that we didn't know before the conference. And we have like a little WhatsApp group that we chat within, and hey, have you tried this? Does anyone know anything about this? And that friendship and relationship has grown so much that in March, I'm going to Vietnam to go hang out with one of the girls that I met.
Amazing.
So you just never know where things are going to go. So at conferences, don't be afraid to talk to new people. Definitely bring some business cards. Even if they're ones that you just whipped up yourself, get your information out there. Yeah, and just be yourself. I mean, I know that's like a really cliche thing to say, but don't try and be anyone else, because everyone's going to see right through it. When you're working, especially how I do, I work with brands, I work with some tourism boards. They're not looking for some like watered down version of you. They're going for who you are and what you can offer them and what they can offer you. So just go out and be yourself, because in the end, that's what's going to get you where you need to go.
Yeah, absolutely. That's really cool. I guess like the other thing with conferences, everyone's there for the same sort of reason, and they've probably got the same sort of thoughts going through their mind as about trying to meet people as well. So yeah, that's really cool. And then
everyone's a little nervous at conferences. And anyone that says that they're not nervous at conferences is lying to themselves.
Yeah. But it's amazing how quick that can change, right? As soon as you say hello to someone, you're off on, talking about some sort of commonality that you have, or the places that you've both traveled to, and sharing stories. And then you're like long lost friends that are just met.
Exactly. So. Exactly.
That's really cool. I wanted to dive in quickly as well into Facebook groups. So, a lot of people out there, I know as a marketer, building up a number of different Facebook groups, a lot of people join a group and then never really interact at all. So how are you interacting in these groups to then start building the relationships with the people in those groups?
And I'm coming from like a blogger perspective and a writer perspective. So my interactions with groups are like trying to find people to write collaborative blog posts with me. So I kind of reach out there. And not every interaction that you're going to have is going to be like this lifelong partnership or lifelong friendship or like grow and develop. Sometimes things are just like one-off, two-off things, quick exchanges, and that's totally fine. But I do a lot of collaboration things. Asking questions is really, really great. If you don't know how to do something, put it out there. Someone might have some advice for you that you can try. Is it going to be expert advice every single time and work for you? No, but getting lots of different, like it's a crowdsourcing thing. I like to call the groups like hive minds, because you just put that out there and people are going to have completely different opinions on that specific topic. And you'll have to weed through and see what's going to work for you. But having all of those opinions is great, because it gives you a starting point off of that thing that you didn't know how to do.
Yeah, so true. Amazing. I love that. So I guess that sort of leads us into what you're doing now as well, which is leading women's groups, travel groups, to all sorts of amazing places around the world. So maybe tell us a little bit about travel groups, what they are, who they are for, why people should get involved, and share some of your experiences on them.
Sure. I have to kind of like rewind. Years ago, I was going through a divorce, and I randomly decided to climb Mount Kilimanjaro, with not knowing how high it was, just signed up. And while I was there, I met my adventure buddy, Laura. And when Laura and I got off the plane in Tanzania, it's a bit of a cluster when you get there, especially if you're on a large plane. So we ended up in completely different lines to get our visas. And Laura met my friend and now boss, Allison, in line while we were there. And Allison and her co-founder, Danielle, created WHOA, which WHOA, it stands for Women High on Adventure. And flash forward, totally serendipitous that she met her. Flash forward, we went on one of their trips, and the following year I was working for them. And it wasn't just like a random hire. Like, I've led trips for the Girl Scouts for a really long time. I was an outdoor educator in a past life. So there's a lot there that I know how to do, dynamics within groups and things like that. So this kind of fell into my life by the universe being amazing, I guess. And now because of that, I get to follow my passion. So WHOA is all about like adventure travel, getting outside. There's usually like a big thing that we're doing. We're climbing Kilimanjaro, we're hiking the Salkantay to Machu Picchu, we're going to Everest Base Camp. In April, I get to go back to Japan with them and hike the Kamano Kodo pilgrimage, which Japan is my favorite country, so I cannot wait to go back again. And then Damesley, I actually met their founder, Kelly Lewis, on a ship in Antarctica a couple of years ago. So again, serendipity and the universe being amazing. And I just led my first 2 trips with her to Cuba. And later this year, I get to go go to Egypt and do Day of the Dead in Mexico with them. And both of those organizations are really amazing because they're both owned and operated by women for women, which I love. But they're also really big travel communities. Through those organizations, I've met so many amazing women that I've traveled with outside of those trips. I mean, on my last trip to Cuba, one girl from the US is dual citizens with Iran. And so she and I are going to go to Iran hopefully next year together. I've got friends that live up in Buffalo, New York now that we're planning to meet up during the summer and do some really awesome hiking trips. Through Whoa, I met them. So you never know who you're going to meet. Again, really big community-based organizations. Travel groups I think they get a bad rap, to be honest. Have you ever traveled with a group before?
Not that I can remember. No, I don't think I have. No.
Okay, so most of the trips that I do are going to places, especially for women, that women don't feel like they can go by themselves. And with Whoa, it's a lot of hiking, and I love hiking, but hiking by myself is the worst, in my opinion. Yeah. And doing hard things by yourself is no fun either.
Totally.
So I think travel gets a really bad rap, like group travel, because they're like, oh, we're not going to be able to do what we want to do. We're not going to be able to like have free time. I have to deal with people that I don't know. And I think, I don't know, I find that those people are really negative, and not every travel group is going to work for every person. There are travel groups that I would personally never travel with because it's not my style and not my community. But working with these 2 groups is really great because, you know, we are a community within itself. And because I've done this and led trips and gone on trips like that, I've grown my personal community and met some really, really amazing people.
Yeah, amazing. Number one, like, I just want to express and say how amazing it is, how excited you get to speak about these travel groups. Like, it's so clear how passionate you are about them. And it really sounds like you're in the perfect job that you love leading and cultivating in these groups. But secondly, like, maybe share with us who these types of groups are for, like what type of women are coming on these groups, and why are they choosing to do these? You mentioned it briefly just then, which was they feel like they can't go to those places alone, but yeah, maybe expand on that a little bit if you could.
Yeah. Later this year I'm going to Egypt with Damesley. Egypt can be really intimidating for a solo female traveler. Not all, but some. The first time I went to Egypt, I went with a group as well because I wasn't sure, what I was getting into. I don't speak Arabic. I've never been to Egypt before. Everybody's like, oh my gosh, you're going to Egypt. Are you going to be okay? Which is, I hate when people do that. That's the worst. But people just are told that these places are scary and that you're not supposed to go to them, especially as a woman. So helping women feel more comfortable when they travel is a big thing, especially for Damesley. And for Whoa, climbing Kilimanjaro is awesome. I've done it twice. 2 completely different experiences. I loved it and hated it both times because it's hard. Especially the first time, I describe it as the best, worst thing that I've ever done. And actually, when I interviewed with Whoa, I told them that I would never do it again. And then 2.5 years later, I was stepping foot on the mountain. So you never say never. And with Whoa, it's all about like doing big things. My friend Kim, who I met doing Everest Base Camp with a few years ago, whenever we see each other, we're always like, I love doing hard things with you. We recently climbed Mount Fuji in Japan in September and really talked about and got in depth because when you're hiking, you're just chatting and sometimes you get into really deep, meaningful conversations about how like doing hard things together, whether you know that woman or not, is a really big bonding experience. And you reach, your goal or your personal summit if you don't make it to the top. And you have all of these people surrounding you, encouraging you, they're proud of you. And like 5 days ago, they didn't even know who you were. And that's a really, really powerful experience that is hard to replicate on your own. I mean, you can go and climb Kilimanjaro and hire a guide. And I know friends that have done it and it's just been them and they've had a great time. But my experience on Kilimanjaro both times have been met with laughter and dancing and tears and hugs and like complete joy. And why wouldn't you not want that in your travel experience? And being surrounded by people that are supportive of you just because supporting you is awesome, that's a beautiful, beautiful thing. And so I think when people think of group travel, they don't think of that. They think of being annoyed by other people and being inconvenienced by someone else's bugaboo. So my travel experience with groups is just so different because I've had those awesome, awesome experiences with other people.
Yeah, that's beautifully said. I really love that. I guess, you mentioned there those shared experiences. I remember reading somewhere like it's shared experiences like that are that really cultivate that strong relationship, those strong bonds and relationships that last a lifetime, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I'm sure there's some of those people that even if you haven't spoken to them for a year or two, if you were to meet them again, you just pick up right where you left off and continue on.
Yes.
Which like that's a major benefit of like being a digital nomad, right? You can have those shared experiences and then not see each other for another year's time, but still feel like it was just yesterday that you're hanging out. And it happens so many times. And yeah, I just love being part of those types of communities as well. So
me too.
I guess the next question is, and maybe we just touched on it a little bit just before, is what are some of the biggest mistakes you see people making when going into like a group travel scenario, or like some of the misconceptions that they have?
Well, the misconception is that you're not going to have a good time and that you're just going to be, bothered by other people. And yeah, like it's your trip, especially people that don't travel a lot. It's your vacation. It's your time away. You've worked really hard and you've saved a lot of money to make that happen. And that is awesome and like way to go, because travel is such a privilege in our world. Not everyone gets to see the amazing things that people that travel and go on vacation in like faraway places get to see. And if that's your experience, maybe group travel isn't for you. But if you're looking for an experience, try and find a group that fits you. There are so many different travel companies out there right now because people in the world just don't have time to plan a really great trip. On my last trip to Cuba, one of the clients was a doctor, and she works in the ER, which is one of the most stressful jobs that I could possibly think of. And she said this trip is great because like all the places that we go and we eat are spectacular. Like I don't eat the trip was in Cuba. When I go to Cuba, every single meal is absolutely amazing because we go to these private restaurants and like they're so well curated is the word that she was using. And as a solo traveler at times, sometimes the food that I'm eating is complete garbage because you're like, oh, this restaurant looks really good, and it's awful. Have you had that experience?
Absolutely.
It's the worst. But when you're spending your hard-earned money and you don't get to travel that much, going on a trip where every meal is amazing is like a great highlight. So if you're looking for something where, especially if it's like food related, there are so many organizations that do like food trips. They take you to great restaurants. You go and you do some cooking classes. You like go into somebody's home in Italy and someone's grandma teaches you how to make pasta like the way her grandma did. Some experiences you just can't find on your own. So if you're looking to do group travel or any type of travel, and you want that experience of like getting really deep into the culture, sometimes finding a group is perfect for you.
Yeah, that's perfectly said. I don't know about everybody at home, but I'm definitely being convinced that group travel is the way to go. At least some of the time, right? Like I've traveled a lot by myself, and
Mm-hmm.
this I'm really happy to be speaking to you about this, and it sort of confirms some plans that I've got coming up in about 6 or 7 weeks time, where I'll be going to Costa Rica, and I was just planning on
Mm-hmm.
traveling around just by myself. But I decided that I'm going to do a surf retreat there and spend some
Oh
time
God, you're gonna
with
love it. I
people
did a surf
surfing.
retreat in Nicaragua a few
Yeah,
years ago. It was amazing.
yeah, right. And it's like it's the same thing. Like everyone's going there for the same reasons, to have a community, to learn how to surf, or if they are surfers already, then to continue surfing with others. Where you definitely do that by yourself, but again, it comes back to those shared experiences, and you don't know what's going to come from that. You can make some lifelong friends.
Mm-hmm.
You don't really know. So
And
this has
surfing
been
is
really
hard.
amazing. Yeah.
Surfing is super hard. I mean, when I was there a few years ago, I had never done it before. I got worked so many different times for a wave. And there was one time that I got worked so hard from a wave that I like dragged my surfboard back in to the shore and like stomped off and had to have a moment. There was a temper tantrum, I'll admit it. And someone came up to me and goes, "You need to get back out there. You're going to be fine." And like, it wasn't like someone that was running the retreat. It was someone that was on the retreat with me. Like, "You can do this." And I was like, fine, screw it. And I went back out and I caught the best wave the next time.
Nice.
And it's just having, I mean, if it was just me, I would have been like, I'm done for the day, whatever. I'll just try again tomorrow. Have my moment, go drink a beer later on. But having that person there, like, I wouldn't have caught that wave without them.
Yeah.
You just don't know.
I love that. That's so cool.
I know that you asked me about tips for group travel. The biggest tip that I can give anyone for group travel is bring your patience, because everybody is completely different. And yeah, sometimes there are people on trips that are the worst. You just don't know what you're going to get. And, choosing to have a good time, even if someone is bringing you down, is the way to live your life, right? I mean, you can't affect that person in the grocery store that's being rude to everyone, bring your entire day down. And it's the same thing on a trip. Yeah, you're going to be with them for, however many days your trip is. But knowing that afterwards, one, you don't have to see them again. And two, that there's a lot of other, well, I mean, it's a big part of it. I will totally admit it. Sometimes I'm like, okay, I don't have to talk to you after these 7 days because you're not a very nice person. But also knowing that there are lots of other amazing people that you can interact with, and just not let that person phase you. I think that's the biggest tip that I give everyone, especially if I have a client that's dealing with someone that they're not particularly enamored with.
Yeah, it's so important. Like I love how you say it's not just travel, but that's like a really great outlook on life in general. Like anytime anyone triggers you outside of yourself, like you should be in control of your feelings, right? And and your emotions, and not let the outside world affect that. So that's really cool. Retha, we're about to finish up in just a moment. I guess, something that I want to end with here is, do you have any final words or tips around today's topic, or just being a digital nomad in general, for people to go out there and get started and to start, living the life of their dreams?
When it comes to group travel, just go. I really encourage people. Group travel is a great place to try new things. If you don't know if you like hiking, go on like a 3-day hiking trip. Give it a try. You want to like follow your passion, be a cook, find a group travel experience that's all about cooking or surfing or anything, because you can go, you can have a great time and find the passion that you thought was missing in your life. Or you go and you find out that it's not really your thing and you had a great experience and you move on. I think group travel is a really safe space to try new things. And I love when I have clients coming on a trip, it was like, oh my gosh, I never ever thought I was going to hike before. And I'm totally serious. I've had clients that have never climbed mountains before that have come and climbed mountains. And when we're going down, actually, when I did Fuji in September, I had this one woman, I was like, "Hey, did you have a great time?" She goes, "I am never doing that again." on International Women's Day this year, she will be summiting Mount Kilimanjaro. So you just never know in that moment if you're going to love that thing or not. And yeah, just go out in the world and try things. And just in life in general, just live your life. Have a good time.
That's so cool. I love that. Retha, a few things. Firstly, thanks for taking the time today to share your amazing wisdom.
Thank you.
I just want to say, you know, I appreciate how much you really enjoy this topic, and that the work that you're doing in this space, especially for women and leading these groups. It's a really important topic and a really important thing to do out there in the world. So yeah, keep doing it. You're amazing. And I'm sure there's going to be some women who want to follow you and maybe join some of these groups and things like that. So where can they go to do that?
All of my social media handles, I am at Roaming Nanny, ROAMINGNANNY. And they can find me at www.roamingnanny.com. If you want to join me on one of my upcoming trips, you can click the Travel With Me link on my homepage.
Perfect. And we'll link that up down below as well. So yeah, thanks again for joining us, and hopefully we'll get to catch up next time.
Thanks so much. Bye.